There are moments in life when something inside you suddenly becomes alert, almost as if a quiet inner voice taps your shoulder and says, "Pay attention now." If you're listening to this, you might be standing in one of those moments. And I want you to hear this as if it were spoken directly to you. There's something vital you are meant to grasp, and it cannot wait. Not until next week. Not when things settle. Not when you feel ready. Now, you may not realize it yet, but the next 3 days carry a meaning far deeper than just time passing on a calendar. 3 days, 72 hours, might seem ordinary, but in the language of divine timing, it is never random. Throughout history, in stories of transformation, revelation, and rebirth, a span of 3 days shows up like a sacred rhythm. The pause before change, the breath before breakthrough, the quiet before the emergence of something new. And right now, those 3 days have been set aside with purpose for you. This isn't something to file away for later reflection. This is not a season where you sit quietly hoping clarity will appear on its own. This is a moment that comes with direction, with urgency, with intention. I want you to imagine your life as a hallway with many doors. Some are open but unnoticed. Others are locked, waiting for the right key. In the next 3 days, what opens or stays closed will depend on something surprisingly simple: your responsiveness, your awareness, your willingness to step forward instead of hesitating. Maybe you've been caught in that place of indecision, half wanting change, half fearing it. Maybe you felt stuck, telling yourself you'll make a choice when things are clearer. But the truth is, clarity often comes after movement, not before it. And these next 3 days are an invitation to move. You might wonder, why 3 days? Why not 7? Why not 1? But timing has its own language. 3 days represent a complete cycle, an ending, a shift, and an emergence. It's long enough to break patterns, short enough to prevent doubt from creeping in. It's a container of focus, a short window where your attention becomes a catalyst. Think about how many times you sensed something important but dismissed it, saying, "Maybe later." How many openings slipped by because you didn't recognize them in time? This moment is different. It is designed, not coincidental. A precise moment meant to wake your awareness, meant to pull you out of hesitation. So I want to ask you something gently but honestly. When was the last time you actually gave yourself permission to act on what you felt instead of what you feared? Because the next 3 days are inviting you to do exactly that. Whatever unfolds in this window, small nudges, sudden clarity, unexpected thoughts, don't brush them aside. Treat them like signals, not noise. The divine rarely speaks in fireworks. More often, it whispers and waits to see if you're listening. What you choose to focus on, what you choose to release, what you choose to act on, these choices will determine what opens for you and what stays hidden a little longer. 3 days, a short span with a distinct purpose, a sacred appointment with transformation. And whether you realize it or not, you've just stepped into it. When a 3-day span is set apart in divine timing, it always means something is shifting beneath the surface. It signals an ending, not a destructive one, but the kind that gently closes a chapter you've outgrown. It signals a deep alteration, the kind that rearranges your inner landscape. And it signals a powerful emergence, the kind that lifts something in you that has been quiet for too long. You may not see it yet, but a new era is forming at the edge of your life. Not a dramatic restart, not everything burning to the ground, but the kind of fresh beginning that feels like the first breath after holding everything in for far too long. Something in you is stepping forward, and something that has been weighing you down is preparing to fall away. Over the next few days, things that were overlooked in your life, your gifts, your voice, your needs, your truths will begin to come into focus. What was pushed aside, dismissed, minimized, or ignored will begin to rise again. You might even feel surprised by the memories or desires resurfacing, as if some forgotten part of you finally realizes it's safe to speak. But let me also say this: transformation doesn't always feel gentle at first. You may sense discomfort. You might feel unsettled, restless, or strangely emotional. That doesn't mean something is wrong. It means something is shifting. Growth rarely shows up wrapped in comfort. It comes wrapped in honesty, asking you to see what you've avoided, asking you to hold space for what's emerging. Think of a seed underground. Before it breaks through the soil, things get messy. The shell cracks. The darkness feels tighter. The pressure increases. But this tension is not destruction, it is emergence. And the same thing may be happening within you right now. If you are ready, truly ready, your life can undergo a deep and meaningful transformation after this interval. Not because you force it, and not because you make a dramatic change, but because you align with what's already unfolding. Preparedness isn't about perfection, it's about openness. It's about saying, I'm willing, I'm listening, I'm ready for what's next. And here's the reassurance you may need. A deep restoration is approaching. Something in your spirit, something worn down by years of holding on, is getting ready to heal. You may feel the discomfort of shedding old layers, but beneath that discomfort is renewal, true renewal, not temporary relief, but a resetting of the inner foundation. Ask yourself, what if the peace you've been praying for, the clarity you've been seeking, the shift you've been waiting on, is closer than you think? What if this small window of time holds more meaning than you ever realized? A fresh era isn't coming someday. It's beginning now, quietly, intentionally, powerfully, and you are right in the center of it. There are seasons when life whispers gently, and there are seasons when life calls your name with unmistakable clarity. If you're hearing this now, you are standing in the second kind. The next 3 days are not just days, they are a sacred turning point. And the first step is simply this: recognize their weight. Fully, completely, without brushing it off as coincidence. This is not a vague encouragement or a poetic invitation. This is a direct summons to act, to step forward, to respond with intention instead of hesitation. For so long, you may have carried plans, desires, questions, even silent prayers, waiting for a sign of when. Well, the when has arrived, and it looks like 3 days. But how do you prepare for something you cannot yet see? How do you lean into a window of change without knowing what is waiting on the other side? It begins with your inner state. Purify your inner self. That doesn't mean striving for perfection. It means letting go of what has been clouding your clarity. Maybe it's the worry that loops endlessly in your mind. Maybe it's the resentment you've carried for years. Maybe it's self-doubt or guilt, or an expectation that you should already be somewhere else in life. Whatever it is, you cannot carry it into these 3 days. Release what diverts you, not because you're weak, but because you're ready. Calm your thoughts and your environment. You don't need to escape to a mountain or a retreat or a monastery. Peace is something you can cultivate right where you are. Turn down the noise. Take a few minutes each day where you unplug from the world and reconnect with yourself. Stillness is not emptiness. Stillness is alignment. It's the space where direction can finally reach you. Have a way to capture what comes. Because over the next 3 days, insights may arrive quietly through a thought, a memory, a sudden clarity, or even a passing feeling that seems insignificant at first. Write it down. Record it. Don't trust yourself to remember it later. Guidance often shows up like a spark, not a paragraph. And sparks disappear if you don't hold on to them. And then, this is the part many people skip. Move immediately. Not recklessly, not impulsively, but without that familiar loop of second guesses, doubts, and overthinking. You already know how easily the mind can talk you out of what your soul knows is right. This time, don't let it. When you feel the nudge, act. When clarity comes, respond. Don't analyze yourself back into stagnation. I want to share something I've learned. Profound experiences don't come from striving harder. They come from trusting deeper. When you rely fully, truly fully, on the guidance trying to reach you, life opens in ways you didn't expect. New paths, new understanding, new peace. Some of the most meaningful breakthroughs I've witnessed didn't happen because someone worked harder, but because they finally surrendered to the timing that was already prepared for them. You're stepping into such a window now. These 3 days hold significance not because they are magical, but because you are finally aligned enough to receive what has been waiting for you. So ask yourself, am I willing to show up? Am I willing to listen? Am I willing to act without hesitation? Because the door is opening, and your willingness will determine how far it opens. As these 3 days unfold and the coming week begins, something subtle yet unmistakable will start to happen. This week marks the commencement, the quiet beginning of a shift that has been building for years beneath the surface of your life. You may not feel a dramatic explosion of clarity, but you will begin to sense guidance reaching you in ways you haven't experienced before. First, pay attention to the people who suddenly come to mind. Not randomly, not out of nostalgia, but with a strange sense of relevance. These might be individuals you need to reconnect with, or even forgive. Sometimes healing arrives not through new relationships, but through the restoration of old ones. And sometimes forgiveness is less about making peace with others and more about freeing the weight in your own heart. Next, answers to long-standing problems may appear in simple, almost unexpected ways. A conversation, a sudden realization, a shift in perspective. You might catch yourself thinking, why didn't I see this before? Not because it wasn't there, but because this is the moment when clarity is finally allowed to surface. You may also experience fleeting visions, brief images of places, possibilities, or paths. They might come while you're resting, praying, walking, or even during the ordinary moments of your day. Don't dismiss them. These small glimpses often carry the seeds of future movement. Sometimes the future doesn't announce itself with a trumpet. It hints softly, testing whether you're paying attention. And then there are the inner urgings, the impulses that feel both gentle and urgent at the same time. You might wake up with a sense that something needs to shift. You might feel drawn to act on something immediately, even if you don't fully understand why. Trust those moments. They are not accidents, they are invitations. Here's the extraordinary part. If you align with this timing, truly align, what used to require months or even years of effort can shift within these 3 days. You may notice opportunities emerging faster than expected, problems resolving more fluidly, doors opening with surprising ease. Unexpected messages may arrive, texts, calls, emails, from people you didn't anticipate. And connections that once felt distant or impossible may suddenly establish themselves with natural, effortless timing. Sometimes the right people appear the moment you make room for them. I've seen this happen in my own life more times than I can count. Seasons where nothing moved for months, and then within days, everything changed. Not because the world suddenly favored me, but because I learned to tune into timing instead of fighting against it. And that's the invitation for you now. Pay attention to the movement, not just to what is happening around you, but to what is happening within you. This is the time when insight is given, direction is clarified, and paths begin to take shape. The coming week is not just another week. It is the beginning of alignment, the beginning of recognition, the beginning of acceleration. And if you stay open, the signs will not just guide you, they will reshape the course of your journey. There comes a moment in every person's life when the road ahead begins to clear, not because the world suddenly becomes easier, but because something within you finally aligns with the truth of where you're meant to go. If you are hearing this now, you are stepping into one of those moments. Your direction is about to straighten. The weight you have been carrying, emotionally, mentally, even spiritually, is about to lighten. And the fog that has blurred your path is preparing to lift. Think back for a second. How long have you felt like you were walking without a clear map? How long have you wondered whether you were choosing the right doors, the right people, the right timing? There are seasons when uncertainty becomes a quiet companion, following you everywhere you go. But this is not that season. The time you are entering now is different, clearer, more intentional, more guided. This moment is not random. There are windows in life, rare, valuable windows, that, if missed, change the arc of your journey. Not because they punish you, but because timing has its own rhythm. Some opportunities exist only when your heart, your readiness, and divine alignment meet at the same point. That is happening for you now. And here's the extraordinary part. What felt impossible for the last 5 years, what you prayed for, hoped for, or even gave up on, is preparing to manifest in one profound, sacred act. Not through force, not through striving, but through alignment. I want you to imagine a locked gate you've stood before for years. You've pushed on it, knocked on it, spoken to it, tried every method you knew, and still it did not move. But now imagine that without warning, without struggle, the gate simply swings open. Not because you suddenly became stronger, but because the time finally arrived. That is the kind of opening you are stepping into. Where there was no way, there will be a way. Where things felt restrained, they will be released. Where progress felt slow, it will accelerate. Some of the most powerful breakthroughs happen when the inner shift becomes strong enough to change the outer reality. And you are nearing that threshold. Perhaps you've been carrying disappointment, the kind that builds quietly over the years. Perhaps you've been telling yourself, maybe it just wasn't meant for me, or maybe I'm asking for too much. But understand this, you were not wrong for hoping. You were early. Every dream has a right time. Every breakthrough has an appointed moment. Every transformation arrives when the inner foundation is finally ready for it. So ask yourself gently, if the weight I've carried were lifted, how would I move? How would I show up? Who would I become? Because that's what is being offered to you now. Freedom from what restrained you, release from what held you back, alignment with what has always been meant for you. A straightened path, a lightened load, a dissolving of uncertainty. Not temporary relief, but genuine, lasting shift. And what opens next may feel nothing short of miraculous. When sacred window opens in your life, how you respond determines the shape of what comes next. Not because you have to earn anything, but because readiness always creates capacity. And right now, what matters most is the posture of your heart, your willingness to receive, to believe, to step forward without dragging the weight of old limitations behind you. Start with your words. The words you speak shape the atmosphere around you. They reveal what you expect and what you fear. And this moment calls you to speak words of expectation, not words rooted in the past. Stop rehearsing your old limitations. Stop retelling the stories that shrink you. Speak the language of where you are going, not where you have been. Then look at your actions. Let them reflect belief, not hesitation. Let them show confidence, not fear. You may not have everything figured out, but decisive action is a form of agreement with the path opening before you. When you move with certainty, the universe, the divine, and even life itself tend to respond in ways that reinforce your direction. This shift you are entering is not temporary. It is not a momentary uplifting or a burst of motivation. This is a permanent elevation, a raising of your internal standard, a new way of navigating life. Once you step into this new space, you won't return to the old one. You will not fit into the patterns that once held you. Growth has a way of making certain doors too small to walk through again. And here's the truth. The intentions for your life, those divine, deeply aligned intentions, depend on your willingness, not your perfection, not your history, not your failures, simply your willingness to say, yes, I'm ready. That willingness activates timing. It opens doors. It shifts the trajectory of your life. But this sacred window is not open indefinitely. It isn't meant to pressure you. It is meant to focus you. Timing is a language, and right now the message is clear. Prepare your heart. Act decisively. Let go of fear. Fear may try to convince you that you need more time, more certainty, more guarantees. But courage rarely waits for reassurance. It moves first. Return to the message you have received. Sit with it. Reflect on it. Let it settle into you like seeds finding soil. Meditate on its truth until it becomes part of the way you breathe. And when your heart begins to whisper its agreement, follow it. Because what has begun in your life will not remain unfinished. You are not stepping into a half-formed promise or a temporary surge of hope. You are stepping into something whole, intentional, and complete. What begins now will be brought to a perfect and complete conclusion. And your willingness is the key that unlocks everything that comes next.